Deep in the heart of a big city park, there was once a very special squirrel. He was unlike the other squirrels, because he did unspend his time chasing his bushy tail or searching for acorns. Bobby, the squirrel, spent his time looking after the birds that couldn't fly. Every morning when Bobby opened his eyes, he would look around to see if any new birds had joined his little feathered friends. One day, as he was tending to the birds, Bobby saw something very upsetting.
There were hundreds of baby birds lying on the ground, shivering and cold.
Their parents had flown away for the winter, leaving them all alone. At first, Bobby was too scared to approach them. They were so tiny, and he was just one squirrel. But then he remembered what his mother had told him.
She always used to say, "Be kind to others, especially when they are different from you."
So Bobby gathered all his courage and went closer. "Hello," he said softly. The baby birds looked up at him with their tiny beaks. "Don't be scared," said Bobby. "I'm here to help you." And with that, Bobby the Squirrel began to gather food for the hungry birds. He started to collect acorns and nuts and laid them out in front of the birds.
Then he brought some dry leaves to keep them warm.
But even though Bobby worked tirelessly, he knew that this wouldn't be enough to save them. As the days passed, the weather grew colder and stormier. The baby birds huddled together for warmth, but they were still freezing. Bobby watched sadly as one by one they closed their eyes forever. One day, as Bobby was collecting some twigs, he met an old owl. "Hello," said the owl. "What are you doing?" "I'm trying to build some sort of shelter for these baby birds," replied Bobby. "They're all alone and freezing." "I don't want them to die." The wise old owl listened patiently. "You have a kind heart, little squirrel," he finally said, "but you can't save them." "You're just one squirrel." Bobby looked down. He knew the owl was right, but he couldn't just stand by and watch as those poor birds froze to death. So Bobby continued to work, determined to do something, anything to help. Then he got an idea. He would build a huge pile of leaves in front of the bird's den, like a wall. This way, even if the wind blew, the leaves would block their path and protect the birds from the cold. And so Bobby the Squirrel began to gather leaves. He gathered and gathered until he had made a huge pile. But it wasn't as easy as he thought it would be. Every time he made the pile big enough, the wind would come and blow it away. Just when he was about to give up, he heard a loud crack. Looking up, he saw that the old oak tree had started to shed its leaves. Bobby waited patiently as thousands and thousands of leaves fell to the ground. Then he gathered them all
And made a thick, protective wall in front of the bird's den.
Bobby the squirrel was exhausted, but he felt very proud.
He might not have been able to save all of the birds, but he had done his best. And that's all any of us can do. Really, isn't it? The next morning, Bobby came running. He was so happy to see that the birds were safe and sound.
They chirped and tweeted to thank him, and Bobby the Squirrel couldn't help but smile.
From that day on, Bobby the Squirrel continued to look after the birds, and the birds continued to sing their sweetest songs for him. And that is the story of how Bobby the Squirrel saved the birds and how every small act of kindness counts. The end.